Welcome to another episode of Tech Story, the podcast which interviews founders and people working in tech growing great businesses. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Ed Flood on the show. Ed is the founder of Trail Pursuit, a company which organizes races, trail experiences in the UK and around the world. Ed, thank you for taking the time for being on the show. Please, can you share a bit of background about yourself and your company?
No worries. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, my name's Ed, and I founded Trail Pursuit about 2.5 years ago. And as you said, yeah, we host different trail race festivals in different locations around the UK. They've been in places like the Lake District, Brecon Beacons. And really, the idea with those are people sign up for a trail race. They may do a trail half marathon, and then we'll collaborate with yoga teachers, breathwork coaches, and kind of musicians. There'll be live music, acoustic acts, and kind of DJs as well. Yeah, whole mix going on. Camping, glamping. So that's one side of the business is the kind of trail race festivals, and then the other side is more kind of boutique adventures and expeditions to places like Croatia and Norway, which typically involve trail running, hiking, and kayaking.
It's really sounds like a lot of fun. Um, how do you sort of grow? How have you grown the company? How have you found your first, clients? Where did it all start?
So we launched in July 2020. So yeah, during the pandemic, and we wanted to put the focus on sort of experiences, and making it more of an experience rather than just a race that you turn up and get your medal and go home. And yeah, we've used social media has been big for us. We built an ambassador team, and for our first event, so we launched in July 2020, and then our first event was in May 2021. We sold 1,700 tickets, and I think we were lucky in that space because no events or organisers were really promoting during that time. So we doubled down. But yeah, social media, Instagram, TikTok. Runners love to share what they're doing, their races, the views, their training plans, what they're training for. And we built a good community and really put the emphasis on community, building email lists and collaborating with different brands as well. So we have like a sports expo area. So we have brands of varying level and age, from startups through to more established brands like the Cotswolds, outdoor and things like that.
Great. And what does it take to build a great community?
That is a good question. It takes patience and persistence, I think, which is transferable for anyone starting any business. You need to have that, things just take time to naturally evolve. But then, you've also got to be persistent and also consistent with your content and your messaging, and genuinely listening to your audience and your community, trying to think what would benefit them and what they're going to be interested in. And then also I find just collaborating and involving people as much as possible, because everyone has different skill sets, and whether they are a breathwork coach or they're qualified cold water therapy, which could be quite niche, and a lot of people could try that for the first time. I think having fun with it as well. Definitely shooting content, videos, doing testimonials, and getting feedback where possible.
We've recently discovered video and we love it, and I guess that's why we're doing this in-person podcast, because I think it's a great way to share experiences in a natural, engaging,
Mm,
and
mm.
authentic way. And I wouldn't say it's easier than writing an article, but yeah, it's definitely off. If you have the people, the cameras, and the place and the
Mm,
time,
mm,
then
mm.
I think it's you can shoot some great videos.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean the short form video as well now is huge, and people's attention spans is reducing. So like if you can get a message across in 15 seconds rather than a 10-minute blog read or however long, it can be quite empowering.
Great, and I guess you mentioned TikTok. Have you gone viral on TikTok? What sort of tips can you share?
Haven't gone viral on TikTok, but we've experimented with different content, but mainly on Instagram and those reels. Some of those have blown up And it's strange because you don't know what's going to connect with the audience, and then when something does, it can really just, yeah, take off. We had one of Olivia, who works with us, who was running in the Lake District, literally down a mountain. It was about a 10-second video. She put a good song behind it, and it was a beautiful summer's day. And I think she posted it on like a Tuesday when everyone's at work, and it it
It went
just went
viral.
bonkers. Yeah. So I'm not sure I know the answer to what makes a
Posting on
viral TikTok.
Tuesdays with a
Yeah,
good song
exactly.
is a lesson.
Yeah, but it's you never know. Have you
Yeah.
had any viral videos yet?
Not yet, but or maybe our marketing team can confirm if we have had a viral video.
You'd
But
know.
yeah, yeah. No, we know if the video's gone viral. I think we've definitely had more traction today with just website traffic, but that's more just because that's where we focus our energy. And I'd say definitely in the past 2 months we started to focus a bit more on social video, and I think we're in that phase of consistently posting, and
Mm.
and I think that's great. But yeah, we're just waiting for that viral video, and I'm sure it will come. But yeah, got to be persistent.
Yeah, yeah, persistent as well. And I think just staying creative and not putting too much emphasis on like, I guess some teams do, like what would make a viral video, but like, yeah, I think the more practice
Yeah,
you have and creativity, that is gonna up the chances
yeah,
tenfold.
absolutely. And in these 2.5 years building Trail Pursuit, what's been your favorite moment so far?
Wow, there's been a few. I think the first race festival we did was just incredible because no one had really competed because of COVID, and they'd been training and things. So it was a beautiful summer's day, and the rush of people. So they're setting off. They've trained for a good few months, do the race, and then kind of celebrate afterwards with the festival, and just seeing people cross the line, and just that kind of natural euphoria, having been at home a lot, was incredible. Um, and yeah, so it's definitely the weekends that we do host. With the festivals, and then we held a couple of expeditions to Norway last year as well, which were more boutiques. There's 12 people on those, and they're across 6 days. And obviously, a lot of those guys and girls are they join solo, or there might be a few couples, and then yeah, it just becomes a huge team dynamic, and you kind of go on this amazing adventure. Um, and the special thing with that was it was like a point to point trip. So you kind of have your equipment with you. You're hiking full couple of days, and then you're kayaking to the next spot. And yeah, it's I mean the landscape over there is unbelievable.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and I guess from hearing that you actually get to go on these trips.
Yes, yeah, I think I definitely do have a wanderlust, and yeah, just an explorative nature, I guess. So it fits quite nicely, and especially when you do recce's as well, and you meet with different partners, it makes it all worth it. But yeah, Norway's a special one.
Yeah, well, I was actually born in Norway, but
Really?
haven't
Whereabouts?
Oslo, but I haven't
Okay.
actually been back since being born. But maybe this is a good opportunity. And what do you wish you'd known before starting Trial Pursuit?
That is also a good question. I Yeah, I'd say just being patient with it, because I think as well as your brand or startup begins to grow, you have more fuel, and your team expands, your community expands, your social presence expands. There's kind of there's like an added growth drive behind all of it. I think that can work really well in some forms. It definitely did for us. But then there's also that added pressure, which is like things can grow too quickly, or you don't have as much of a focus on certain things. So I think probably in hindsight now, yeah, 2.5 years in, probably that laying your foundations and doing things properly, and taking good care over your foundations of the events and your team and things is really key, because that will put you in good stead when naturally there are little curveballs that you have to adapt with.
And you mentioned growing too quickly. Is that something that happened to you?
I'd say last year, yes, it was. Well, I don't know if it grew too quickly. We just had a few curveballs with our venue, and yeah, we kind of had to change a few things last minute, which did impact the. I mean, it's still an amazing event, but it did impact the actual on the routes side of things, and they kind of changed slightly from a trail race more into a mountain race, which a lot of people weren't expecting. Um, so yeah, even on that side of things, from a logistical point of view, doing your recce's, working with councils and your partners just to make sure that everything is as good as it can be.
Yeah, well, I think when you have customers, change is always a big impact for them,
Mm,
regardless of how little or big it is. From our perspective, it will always be perceived as big, and I guess
true, true.
communication is always key. But yeah, we've just released a new version of our software platform, and we're playing catch up on the feedback, and but it's because it's a big change,
Mm,
and yeah, we're working to rectify and get back on track. But yeah, I think change is no one likes change.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's you have to figure it out as you're and regroup and make
Yeah.
changes and kind of keep things fresh and innovative and keep the customer and experience in mind, which we try and do, which you guys are obviously doing as well. So
Yeah, well, we're all trying. It
yeah,
counts. And
definitely.
and obviously you've now expanded with boutique offerings. What's sort of the vision for the next 3, 5 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, the boutique side is more kind of adventures and expeditions. So by the time this is released, we'll have launched a new one to Morocco. So that'll be a winter, couple of winter trips, and that'll be mainly surfing, trail running, and kind of yoga and wellness. And yeah, this demand for kind of experiential wellness retreats, trips, festivals, where the emphasis isn't on getting absolutely slaughtered and partying. I mean, there's still definitely a market for that, but yeah, there's also this market for kind of wellness and adventure and experience that we're kind of tapping into and really driving forward. So we'd look to develop more of these trips around the world. And then on the festival side of things, we've got this collaboration event called Strive Fest, which is the first one's going to be taking at the end of June this year, 2023. And that's in Snowdonia in North Wales. And that's kind of an adventure fitness festival. So there'll be different elements to do with trail races, functional fitness, and your kind of CrossFit. We've got different partners. And there'll be jiu-jitsu and yeah, whole mix of sports with music and camping and things like that.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm very jealous. But yeah, best of luck with all those new adventures and growing the business. With this company, obviously, it's events and
Mm.
travel logistics. What tech do you use to run your company? And I'd say, aside from running the company, what's your favorite tech product?
So we use ESOL, which is a platform for experience-based businesses and kind of really suits festivals, surf retreats, music festivals, things like that. And there's a lot of good functionality in there to do with ticketing, accommodation, adding ambassadors, and really just being in control and kind of able to edit things quite easily. Web design as well, and it's a really good platform. Been with them since the beginning. And what other tools do we use? I mean, we use Mailchimp for email communications. I guess those two are the two main that jump off my head. And then personally, yeah. I really like the Calm, the meditation app, which I mentioned to you before. And yeah, for as yourself, a founder, you know how busy things can get, and you're you kind of oversee and are aware of all these little details. So I find meditating and breath work can really help keep your head clear. Um, so personally, I use that one. Um, use few money tools and yeah, the notes tool as well, keeping track of ideas, just random thoughts and yeah.
So I think, yeah, I never quite got into meditation, but it is something I'd like to have
Mm.
a go at.
You
But
already have quite a calm demeanor, so
oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
You should give it a go. Yeah.
yeah, maybe I'm already too calm for calm. But great. And as a founder, CEO with venues, suppliers, customers, what are sort of the key contracts that you interact with?
Um, so yeah, I guess the venue, depending on the venues, we've worked with farms in the past, which is a little bit more, low key and done over a handshake and a few emails. Whereas the adventure park Snowdonia is a large adventure park. There's a big man-made surf lagoon. So there's a few more, yeah, contracts in place with those guys. And then I guess on the Sports Expo and any brands that we work with, we create agreements and contracts depending on their level of sponsorship or partnership if they're a larger brand. Um, and yeah, we have terms, for the runners side of things when they agree, when they book and sign up, there's some terms.
Disclaimers.
Yeah, disclaimers for injury and we work with medical providers as well, paramedics, who are dotted around, and that's all kind of yeah, kept track online. I
Great.
guess Adobe Acrobat I've been using.
So you've been using Adobe Acrobat
Yeah,
for
well, I have this past week for application forms for TENS licenses
Mhm.
and yeah, just agreements that can be quite handy. Do you use that platform?
We use Legislate.
Oh, that's actually a competitor, is it?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends the context. I mean,
Okay.
are these forms that you were sending out for clients to fill in, or what was the workflow?
Yeah, so TEN's license, so this was in Wales in
Yeah.
Conwy, so they asked you to use Adobe Acrobat and you
Okay.
had to edit it
Yeah.
on there. But mainly it's yeah, for getting signatures or confirming documents. But I'd kind of like to know a little bit more about what you guys do and what
Yeah. No,
you're
I think PDFs are something that we offer in our platform, but they're not necessarily the easiest type of document to search. For example, if you wanted to know, let's say you've updated some terms in your agreements, it'd be really hard for you to find the agreements that have the updated terms across
mm,
your entire database of contracts.
sure.
Or if you wanted to know which suppliers had a 1 month break clause, or
Mm,
any of that information is really difficult, and you'd have to manually sift through the contracts to locate the contracts, and that
mm.
takes time, your busy time, and really what we try to do with our platform is offer a tool that you can use to easily edit and create contracts, but in a way where you can then post signature track all that information and
Find
answer
it easily.
questions. So whether it's internal contracts like employment, so for example, how many of my employees are on a 30-day notice period, how many are still on probation. Obviously, if you've got a small team, you can just about track that.
Mm,
But imagine you're dealing with freelancers. Freelancers tend to have their own set of terms. Which freelancer is on a 2 week notice period? Which freelancer is on a day rate? Which one is on a monthly rate?
mm.
Those questions can be answered very easily, and you don't need to faff around. And it's the same with terms of business. Any types of contract can go through our system, so that you streamline that process and then track that data very easily.
Amazing. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Like,
it seems like we need to hook you up with a demo.
mm.
But that's not why we invited you on the podcast. But
You
great,
never know.
great that that's an outcome or a
Definitely.
potential outcome. But great. And if you were, for example, to receive a contract to sign,
Yes.
what would impress you?
In terms of what's in the contract, or
It's up to you.
the
Yeah,
way I
yeah.
can sign it.
Any, we've had all sorts of answers on the show, so always curious to.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it'd have to, yeah, I think it has to be win-win. Have to keep win-win in mind, I think, in all of these situations. You know, as clear as possible, basic stuff like to have things kind of lined out, easily readable. When we work with music, DJs and bands and things like that, they can have some quite strict things that they require and things. So I think, yeah, clarity is key for myself, and hopefully not unnecessarily long contracts.
Yeah, no, sounds like everything that makes sense. And whilst we don't always control the length of the contract or the clarity of the text, we always offer a view of the contract, which is in a form with questions and answers, and that way you know straight away what the key terms are, so that when you then look at the PDF, you then know what you're looking for.
Mm, mm.
But yeah, great answer to the question. And for potential founders listening to the show, what tips would you share for them to sort of get started or
Mm.
help them make their decision about becoming an entrepreneur?
I would try not to overthink it. And if you've got an idea, you've been given an idea, if you've got an idea, that's like a great start. And then, it might naturally evolve and you're like, wow, this where do I even begin? But I'd say try and break it down into, like really bite-sized steps. Get it written down, do a brainstorm on a board, anything to get it out there into the real world, I think can be really, really powerful. Play with it, move it around and don't think, oh, I need to have every step aligned and figured out. If you've got a rough idea of how it could work, and then yes, it's kind of, do some planning, but then also take some action and think, what can I do today that's going to take me one step forward to kind of realizing this? And even if it's something tiny, like getting something set up or connecting with your first collaborator, or
Buying a website domain.
yeah, website domain, registering the company, like, I mean, that really gets the ball rolling. Um, and yeah, and then just just give it a go, and don't be afraid to fail. Obviously, when you have different pressures and circumstances, that does impact. But if you can do something as a side project as well, and side hustle, and kind of have it as a creative outlet, and see if it have legs, like don't think that you need to go from full-time employment into running your own company. Like you can do it gradually. But I think, yeah, the main thing is to try not to overcomplicate it, throw your ideas down, and just kind of take a step forward.
Great words of wisdom. So practical steps to get the ball rolling,
Yeah, I'd rather give that
and
than,
and and yeah, not worry about having everything figured out.
yes,
And
yeah.
and yeah, I think starting a side hustle is a great idea. As long as obviously your employment contract allows you to. But but yeah, no, thank you very much, Ed, for being on the show,
Awesome.
and best of luck growing Trail Pursuit.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure.